Confronting high credit card debt can feel scary, but the good news is, if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, financial relief options are now available. National Debt Relief is currently offering debt relief designed to reduce what you owe and put you on the fast track to becoming debt-free. If you qualify for debt relief, you may be able to pay back less than what you owe and save thousands of dollars. Just visit nationaldebtrelief.com. Imagine only paying one low monthly program payment you can afford and saving money as you become debt-free. National Debt Relief has already helped bring debt relief to over 550,000 U.S. consumers, earning thousands of five-star reviews and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. You're stronger than your credit card debt. Let today be the day you start turning things around. Take the first step and visit nationaldebtrelief.com to see what debt relief you may qualify for. That's nationaldebtrelief.com.
You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
You're listening to Mission Log the Orville, an episode-by-episode discussion of the adventures of the crew of the U.S.S. Orville. Welcome to Mission Log the Orville. This week, Pria, the one where Ed makes goo-goo eyes at Captain Pria Lavesque, and we learn that the Orville was destroyed in a dark matter storm. My name is Mike Richards.
And my name is Jessica Lynn Verdi, also Charlize Theron, maybe, one day. Mission Log the Orville is a conversation that depends on your participation, so you can reach us at ML_the Orville on Twitter, Mission Log Pod on Facebook, or even better, you can email us at missionlog-theorville@roddenberry.com. And remember, we might use your comments on an upcoming episode, so please be nice-ish. Okay, Mike, I think it's time for the recap. You got this?
Yeah.
Why'd your voice just get so high-pitched?
Huh?
Your voice just got really high-pitched, and then you said...
Oh, it's fine. I got this.
Okay, by all means.
Prologue. The crew is watching Seinfeld on the main view screen. It's the episode Junior Mint. You know, the one where Jerry and Kramer have an accident with a Junior Mint. But we'll get to that on Mission Log Seinfeld. The bridge crew is trying to teach Isaac about comedy, and he's having trouble telling the difference between sadism and slapstick when Gordon decides he'll take a different approach in the form of a practical joke. Isaac is warned just as a distress signal comes in from the Gatria star system. There's a comet heading into a star, and on the comet there's a crashed mining ship, and in the ship there's Captain Pria Lavesque, and she's in trouble. Act 1, the mining ship's life support is hanging in, but the ship will be vaporized by the star. The tractor beam would compromise the hull integrity of the crashed ship. So it looks like a shuttle rescue is the only chance to save the occupant, whose attractiveness makes the rescue imperative. Ed, Alara, and Gordon take a shuttle to the comet, where the team rescues Captain Lavesque, aided by John Lamar and the Orville's tractor beam. Act 2. Debriefing the rescued Captain Lavesque in sickbay, Ed invites her to a cocktail thing in his quarters. But first, Isaac enters the bridge dressed as Mr. Potato Head, courtesy of Gordon and his practical joke. Now it's Isaac's turn to return the favor. Act 3. With Penthouse Serenade playing as we pan from outside the Orville into Ed's quarters, Pria Lavesque is regaling the crew with tales from the mining consortium. While Gordon may be the master of practical jokes, his actual joke falls flat, as Ed and Pria learn they have a lot in common, which doesn't seem to bother Kelly at all. No, not at all. The cocktail thing ends, and Pria offers Ed a proper thank you with a kiss on the cheek, probably the first kiss on that cheek since the divorce. Act 4. Kelly is suspicious. There's no record of Pria Lavesque in the Vega mining records. She brings this to Ed, who's busy giving Pria access to, the entire ship. But he's not concerned. Mining consortiums keep sketchy records, and she hasn't done anything wrong. Undeterred, Kelly asks Alara to check Pria's quarters, but Alara needs a reason. Maybe a radiation check? It's a little sketchy, but she'll do it, if it's a legitimate concern, and not because of the goo-goo eyes Ed was making at Pria. Mission accomplished. Alara finds a metallic rectangular object under Pria's mattress. They can't tell what it is, but they have a bad feeling about it.
Hey, that's Star Wars.
It is. Act 5. Ed's not concerned about the object, but he is concerned about Kelly and Alara tossing cells and promises to put a formal reprimand in Alara's record. Kelly asks for a word in private and tells Ed he's not being objective, that he was making goo-goo eyes at Pria all night, and as his XO, she's telling him there's something wrong. They'll have to agree to disagree as they're both called to the bridge to deal with a dark matter storm. The crew has no experience with such a thing, but Pria does and offers to pilot the ship out of danger. With Ed and Gordon, but not Kelly's approval, Pria does some serious pilot stuff and exits the dark matter storm with damage limited to only the communications array. Act 6. With communications being completely down, Pria offers the help of a consortium base that's only a day away. Plus they can drop her off there, and she'll be out of their hair. With the rest of the day off, Ed takes Pria to the environmental simulator to show her the beauty of Unok 4. It's beautiful, and a little scary, and just the right amount of romantic. Ed and Pria kiss. It's okay, though. Ed just got out of a rough marriage. So they decide to take it slow, or not. That works, too. As night fades into morning, Gordon awakens to find his leg has been amputated. Boom! He's been Isaac'd, and he's not happy about it. After confronting Isaac on the bridge, he's off to sickbay to regenerate a leg. In engineering the rectangular object from Pria's quarters, it's fused into the circuitry. When confronted, Pria lets the crew know that she's a 29th century antiques dealer. She came back in time to salvage the Orville, which was destroyed in the dark matter storm, with all hands lost. This will give them a second chance at life, a chance to live out their lives in the 29th century amid wonders they never knew existed. Act 7. Pria takes control of the Orville courtesy of her 29th century tech. She's taken it to a stable wormhole which leads to the 29th century and the highest bidder. After posting a guard on Captain Lavesque's quarters, Ed apologizes to Kelly, and the two team up to stop Pria. But should they? Aren't they altering the timeline by continuing to live? Wasn't it Pria that altered the timeline? Why should they have to give up their lives now? In engineering, Isaac is able to probe the future technology, but is zapped, apparently to death. Ed calls Gordon to the bridge, who's telling an unconscious Isaac that his was the best practical joke he'd ever seen. Arriving at the wormhole, Pria teleports onto the bridge as the Orville penetrates the wormhole and arrives in the 29th century. During a quick negotiation with a Benzian ship, a message from Isaac, whose program was stored in Pria's tech, allows Ed to regain helm control and gives Kelly a chance to throw down with Pria. The Orville is back in the 25th century, and Ed is contemplating their collective future. What happens now? They can still go with Pria, but they won't. If they leave the wormhole open, Pria or anyone else can alter the timeline, but if they destroy the wormhole, their path is set. The Orville goes on to live its life, and there's no reason for Pria Lavesque to come back in time. With one card left to play, Pria tells Ed he'll always be that messed up guy that can't get over his ex-wife. With that, Ed gives the order, fire, and Pria disappears. The end.
Oh, my good job.
Well, thank you.
That is... Ugh. So this is such a good episode. I think we talked about last week how it was an okay episode. The one that we did, If the Star Should Appear, for me, that's how I felt.
Yeah, I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. But I really liked that one. But go ahead with your...
Well, my point being is I really love this episode.
Good.
Right.
You know, I don't read critical reviews until after I watch it and kind of prepare for the show. But there was one review that called this a turning point of the series.
Yeah, so I don't tend to read critical reviews. Like, if I was watching something while it was happening, which is not what I did with this show, I might, like, see what my friends say on Twitter. But I'm curious, what did they think was the turning point for this?
I think they just felt a little more depth of storytelling. And, you know, I mean, come on. Charlize Theron, Oscar-winning Charlize Theron as a guest star.
Yeah,
I mean, not that Liam Neeson was, you know, small potatoes the week before.
But he was also in there for 2 seconds. You know what I mean? we're talking like guest star. That woman has to film there all week. It's impressive. It's an impressive get, to say the least.
Yeah, so definitely a good show. So, question for you: do you think that letter of reprimand is going to end up in Alara's file?
Oh, I guess I didn't. I remember noting that for myself mentally. I was like, "Oh, he's going to have to delete that."
Yeah, that was some hardcore Ed Mercer right there. And I thought at the end of the day, if he was explaining why that letter of reprimand ended up in her file, that he might just want to forget that ever came up.
So, like, he was 100% warranted to give them that reprimand by defying orders to some extent, but he ultimately is in the wrong by not being objective, as you mentioned. So it's interesting. So he does. He does have to resign on. He has to recant on that real quick.
Yeah, he sure does.
Oh, I mean, beyond like so many other things that like the good writing and them turning a corner, which I would agree with you. This episode like does transcend a lot of expectations. We know there's something wrong with Charlize's character Pria, but we can't put our finger on it, and yet maybe we're crazy. You know, we basically feel like we're Kelly, so it's a really fun episode in that way and in so many other ways. But it's also one of the more fun, like they settle into the humor really well in this episode.
They did. And I tried to draw a line between, I think I'm going to do this because I think the show is written smartly enough that you can draw conclusions and connections between the A plot and the B plot. And sometimes there's even more plots than that. But I would like to, kind of talk about that a little bit later on. Adrienne Palicki, though, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. She does this thing where she almost breaks the fourth wall. She did it in If the Stars Should Appear when she was being interrogated, where she took a punch and then kind of looked at the camera. And then she did it again in this episode when Ed said, hey, let's do a sanity check here. And she took a breath and looked not quite at, but close enough to the camera that I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I think it does bear repeating how wonderful she is. And I did say this last time as well. If you're looking at Family Guy, Brian the dog is Seth MacFarlane. And
right.
Even though Seth MacFarlane is in this show, I think Seth MacFarlane is Adrienne. Like, you're writing the person that we really should be listening to as her. And that's something I wanted to talk about a little bit, and we might talk more about it, but it's actually probably perfect for right now. A woman's intuition, not just woman's, but woman's intuition, we're kind of like born with it, and everyone's intuition can get better. I remember reading something about intuition might not be God-given or the world's telling you, but it's a trained reflex. The more you listen to your intuition and the more you listen to your gut, the better you get at it. Our head might be telling us one thing and giving us the reason, but our intuition's still going to be dead on. So the way we will see this episode, we've seen it previously, and we'll see it in future episodes. Adrienne just knows, or Kelly sees something. She's like, something's wrong, man, and she follows that thread. She really trusts her intuition. It's really cool to see.
And I think it's 100% warranted following up upon. The scientist in me, the engineer in me will say, when I have a feeling like that, that's great. That is a great warning sign. And I may not know what is making that synapse in my head fire, but it does cause me to dig a little bit deeper and try to find some evidence and try to find some data that supports or disproves that feeling. And then you get into that sort of scientific method if you can, but to just discount your feelings, I have a bad feeling about this, and not dig into it, I think is irresponsible. So, like you said, that intuition, or what's often referred to in it seemed like every TV sitcom that I watched growing up had some storyline on women's intuition. But sure. Just all intuition is maybe your subconscious making connections between different data points that then you'd have to, sort of more overtly dig into.
Which is, again, why it is worth repeating that it is a learned skill. If you begin to trust your gut and go, hey, something feels off here, you can continue doing that. And if you're a studier of human nature and yourself and your response patterns, you more than likely can predict what's going to happen next. Something interesting, too, is you could also retrain your gut to be wrong too. So you can have a gut feeling and not listen to it and not listen to it, and you will change how your brain is responding to that. So if you feel like you've veered off of the path of trusting your instincts, you got to go to like what's your first instinct and keep on going to. You have to basically retrain yourself. It's just a fascinating thing that I love. I've had to do work on, and I love seeing in others. And
yeah, it sounds like
it
sounds like a cognitive skill that if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Like many skills.
Totally. So there's something I want to talk about we're dealing with time travel here.
Right.
And it's not the last time we will. No spoilers, but we're dealing with time travel. And they are aware that there are implications of that.
Right.
If they didn't pick up Pria, they wouldn't have been in the way of the dark matter storm.
I sort of took it on blind faith that they will, only because the writers made it sort of a bedrock of the show. But you're right.
That's not how time travel works, though.
Right. Once they changed course to get Pria and save her from the star crasher or whatever it was called, going into the comet. The comet going into the star. Did they then get back on their original course somehow? Or did she maybe ensure that they got back on their original course somehow and encountered the same dark matter storm that previously had killed them in the other timeline?
Because they did say that we were going to take her to the consortium, right? Or that there was like a base that they could take her to.
Yeah, I think they were taken to her star base, and they said they would drop her off at the nearest one.
Yeah, so that might be why she decided to be a mining person, because it would have taken her there or whatever. So I'll give them a little bit more credit than I was giving them. But also, let's just entertain the thought for a second that maybe she was always part of the timeline, that she made them die in the dark matter storm.
Yeah. That's interesting, and that's one of those things where I think my head starts to spin with time travel stories. But I did feel like it was feasible that although they went and saved her from the comet, that they did somehow get back on their original course and then have to deal with that same dark matter storm that allegedly killed them all. Yeah,
totally. I think you're right. I'm gonna take a knee on this one, because the time travel stuff is a little too much for my head to wrap my head around. But from as far as I understand, the butterfly effect would suggest that they shouldn't have done it. So That's all. That's where I'm at.
So, how'd you like the music in this episode?
You know what? I think you notice it more than I do.
I felt like when they were jumping in that shuttle and chasing down the comet in Act 1, that it's not wallpaper. I mean, that is not Star Trek The Next Generation background music. I mean, it is in your face, trying to build the tension. It was loud, it was amped up, it was high paced, and I liked it. And the gentleman that did the score, his name is John Debney. A couple of my favorites: Santa Clarita Diet,
I never watched it.
Canceled way too soon. Doctor Who, and he did a few episodes of Star Trek Next Gen and Deep Space Nine. So, nice job there.
Yeah, I will do my darndest next time around to just see if I can give an extra ear out to the music. But I won't disagree that. So I think that I do improv, and the reason I even know John Champion is because I did Star Trek improv, and we had Star Trek The Next Generation soundtracks playing under our scenes. And if a soundtrack or the tech improviser changed the song, or a couple times we used Inner Light too often to do sad songs, and eventually one of the directors was like, you have to stop using that song. it's too much that episode. But like, I hadn't seen Inner Light at the time, and my grander point being, if the song emotion changed, our emotions tended to go with it. So whatever they're doing is obviously very good and encouraging us to feel the things we should feel.
Well, I think as the show evolves and we get into it, I think music might be my version of John Champion's food, and I will tend to notice that as we go through different episodes.
Just leave me with the rock and roll stuff, and then we'll be good, because I have to have something. Okay.
Oh, same here.
Yours is Adrienne Palicki's eyes and her acting. and I'll take Billy Joel, okay?
It is so good. You know, speaking of acting, Jonathan Frakes directed this episode.
So cool.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it, he's such a good director.
Just again with a long list of deep well of talent, and a long line of, so that's two Star Trek veteran actor-directors, with Robert Duncan McNeil and Jonathan Frakes just in the last we're only 5 episodes in, so 40% of the episodes have been directed by Next Gen alums. So we'll see how that continues on as we continue this journey.
I doubt that Seth MacFarlane ever gets intimidated when he meets people, but I bet you when Jonathan Frakes rolls in to direct that episode, he's pooping in his pants a little bit. I think so.
Yeah, I think
just a little. You got out of excitement.
Oh yeah, no, definitely excited to see him there, as we all would be, as we should be.
So I didn't recognize this, and I made a joke about it while you were doing the recap. I have a bad feeling about this. I think maybe I clocked it the first time around, but I didn't re-clock it this time. They do say that twice, huh?
They do. I think so. Alara says it in the shuttle, and it wasn't quite verbatim. It was kind of like I think I have a bad feeling about this. It wasn't quite the the sharpness of the Star Wars quote. And then I think was it Kelly that said it later on.
I think that goes, if that's true, that goes hand in hand with the intuition conversation, I think.
100% it does. And I think that's probably something they're pointing to, is that if you've got a bad feeling about this, one, they shared it, and your leader, your teammates, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues should give you enough credence and have enough trust in you to dig into that a little bit more, and not just wave it off with by minimalizing it because they don't have the same bad feeling. Value that other person's intuition, value their feeling, value their insight, and maybe turn over a couple of rocks and see what's underneath.
I think this leads us perfectly into the next section where we are going to talk even more about what the consequences are when you don't listen to your other officers.
So we've come to the part of the show where we explore the big ideas in Pria and discuss the messages, morals, and meanings, and see if they align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. So Jessica, I ask you, does this show have morals, messages, meanings? What did you see in it, and does it align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy?
No. Could you imagine? What if it doesn't. Not today. Not today, Mike. Not today.
Shortest podcast in Roddenberry podcast history.
So true. No, Sci-Fi 5. Sci-Fi 5 is the shortest podcast in Roddenberry history. I think I'm so looking forward to your takeaways because you really are. You offer such insightful takes on things, so I'm sure I'll have more to say even than this. But I think it's really interesting, the concept of trust, and like you were saying before that little break, I thought we already learned this, that you're supposed to be able to trust your officers, that you need to find that balance between confidence in yourself and trust your officers. But we're dealing with Ed's different levels of trust, not being able to trust another person with his heart, not being able to trust his ex, and being able to trust himself also. So I do think, I think we're definitely dealing with some key Star Trek philosophical ideas, especially as it relates to humans in space, right? You could put this episode on TV and these people are at Central Perk, again, another Friends reference, and we've been dealing with it. We all question our ability to trust. And I think it's really interesting that Pria says the worst thing you could do to somebody is cheat on them. And that's not true based off of what she's doing to him. So it's true that he can't trust Adrienne that he can't trust Kelly because she cheated, but he can't trust Pria either. It's fascinating. I don't know. We just examine the different ways that comes about.
Yeah, he began to trust her, and he mentioned that he did, and I think he said the worst thing was that I began to trust you, and you never even said you're sorry. And I want to jump back to that apology line here in a little bit, but I like that we're revisiting trust 2 or 3 or 4 times in the first several episodes, because there was the big revelation in Old Wounds that although Kelly and Ed had moved on from each other romantically, that they did make a good team professionally, and that Ed could and did need to trust her judgment and her professional opinion working together. I think what happens when you're in any position is that as you start to gain confidence faster than you gain experience and faster than you gain expertise, then maybe you trick yourself into thinking you can be a little bit more self-reliant than you really ought to be at any particular time. And that to me is what we saw with Ed in this episode. He's had a few good missions under his belt. He's learned a little bit. He's gotten more confident as a captain, and maybe he translated that, unfortunately, into more self-reliance and not trusting and not listening to the other folks that he's working with. Yeah. And that's where I think it broke down.
Yeah, no, I'm going to actually totally disagree with you here. I think he's 100% hot for Pria. Who wouldn't be? And
no kidding.
And, there's studies that's been done that a more objectively attractive commonly attractive child will have a better chance of being accepted and taught by teachers because of that. So if you're quote unquote good looking, you already have earned just like sight unseen trust. And he is hot for her. And we hear immediately with Gordon going, she's hot, we got to save her. And so he's more than having a couple of missions under his belt, which I can see your point. I mean, I'm not saying you're totally wrong, even though you are. Like,
but I actually think that we have a lot more in common on this than you might think. But I love what you're saying, because this is definitely another facet that I think agrees with and obviously takes what I was saying to a whole nother level. So please continue.
Well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong too. Like, yours does play into it in that if he's feeling good and like he is like, I just saved this lady and we made the decision to save her, and I killed the krill and I'm doing really good. So he's already got swagger. And first of all, for Seth MacFarlane to be hitting on Charlize Theron, that's a different world. That's a mirror universe. It's a mirror universe.
That is the kind of thing that only happens in the entertainment industry on screen.
Or if someone's super rich or confident. So
right.
He obviously has the swagger. She lets him in like, hey, we're gonna flirt now. That's the thing. But he is feeling like $1 million, and so that plays into his. But I just don't know that men have the capacity to have enough blood flow to both heads at one time.
Well, I'll tell you what you opened my eyes to, and you're 100% right, is that when there is that physical attractiveness, that you translate that into other things as well. And like you said, trust and feelings that somebody is believable on your side, goodness, all of those things are associated with attractiveness. So his ability to critically assess how Pria was, what she was doing, where she was, why she was there, was, I think, very, very much compromised because of her attractiveness. I agree with you 100% on that. I also think that he wouldn't have been so darn self-reliant and so willing to dismiss Kelly's concern if he didn't have a boost in confidence that was unwarranted. In other words, his confidence had grown faster than his competency as a captain had. And that's where I think those two things, crossed paths and hilarity ensued.
Yeah. I think to your point, I think the confidence that you're talking about is probably like, it's more insinuated than it is like overt. And I think so that's fair to infer that. And before I get labeled as like a man hater, which 100% I am, and other people have called it to my face before, don't worry. I also I broke my own heart by just immediately falling for someone for attraction and trusting them. So like I can speak from a place of like it's not just a man's problem. It's not just but like I wanted so badly to go. This is the person I'm supposed to be with. They're gorgeous, or a chemistry is on, or whatever. And so they got away with murder, not murder, but like emotional murder. So I'm just saying, I get it from personal experience too.
We have all been there, so definitely think. Oh no, 100% have been
No,
there.
I know it just hurts.
So,
but here's my question, just to
Yeah.
further that one thought, and I'm just curious on what your take is. Do you think Kelly's jealous?
yeah, I do. I think it was the only little bit of maybe overacting that I've seen on the show was when she was kind of uncomfortably sipping her wine at Ed's cocktail thingy.
Sure.
And I think that was to clearly show us that she was jealous. You know, those two bonding over being from Massachusetts and going to the Salem Witch Trial Museum and Kelly not knowing about that. I think that was definitely a scene that was written to show us that there was some jealousy.
But isn't that fascinating too? How well they know, like they're from Massachusetts and been to the Salem witch trials and all those things. It's written so well that you can't imagine something would be wrong. Like you can make that really ham-fisted and go, okay, she knows too much, but
Right.
or it's like too coincidental that she's from Massachusetts too. But you're right that she is rolling her eyes like she is. I think she is jealous a little bit, but I don't know. I think she's jealous a little bit, but again, that's where the intuition question comes in.
Yeah, and to her credit, I don't think it interfered with her job duties.
Or it did, and that's okay too.
You think it did, and she just ended up being right?
I guess that's what I mean with if it's intuition. It doesn't. Your head might give you the wrong reason, right? She knows something's wrong. It's partly she could be jealous, but it's still not leaving her. I would give her enough credit to go, yeah, I'm a little jealous. Yeah, I'm a little jealous. Okay, get over it. And again, we're not seeing all that play out. But behind the scenes, I'm going to give that character credit to go, shake it off, you're jealous. He can do whatever he wants.
Yep.
But something else is happening.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly where I landed on it too.
Yeah.
Is that there was some jealousy, there was some, old, long history between the two of them that she was cognizant of, but I don't think that was her motivation. I really don't. I think she
Ultimately,
had the
though,
intuition, and what did she do? She did exactly what we said before, which was dig into it and try to find some answers. So she had a bad feeling, and then she went and looked into the personnel records, and she wasn't there. So that's, a piece of evidence for her. And then she was able to convince Alara to, do the radiation sweep in the room, which is a gross overreach of her authority, or at least an overreach of her authority. But she was able to find another piece of evidence to back up her feelings. So that's kind of what we said before in the show, is that if you have that intuition and you have that feeling, that's great. Use it to try to, build a case and either prove or disprove how you're feeling about the situation. And that's why I think Kelly was fine in going where she went and doing what she did, was because she didn't just take her intuition and run with it. She took her intuition and tried to learn more about the situation.
She handled it with a lot of the right way. She went to him. She didn't confront that bitch. You know what I mean? She definitely did try to do her best, while definitely making questionable choices that some would think were wrong.
Yeah, and she went to him twice. She went to him with the with the lack of her name in the records when they were in engineering. She was like, I don't think you should be giving her all this access. Question for you, and this didn't make it into the notes before. This is a little bit more Section 1 stuff, but I'm not really comfortable that she knew what part of Yaphet she was shaking there.
I didn't. She probably doesn't know, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't think she does.
Based off of the different ways we've seen him present himself.
Yeah.
We know, most likely.
He's a gelatinous thing. I don't think he has exactly what we call parts, but...
Well, actually, I'm really glad that you're mentioning this, too, because I was going to mention this previously, but it kind of goes into the morals, messages, but this is a really brief moment, but the engineer guy who, called Lara a kid before...
totally sketchy.
Totally, and we know it. Like, that actor is so good at being the questionable... middle-aged white dude who's still going to try and get away.
Those are my people.
You're to the left of that. He's got like 10 more years on.
Yeah, but the line was in case people don't remember it was his name is Newton, which I think is interesting because we have Isaac on the bridge and the chief engineer is Newton. So
but it's Isaac Asimov and Isaac Newton, right? It's different influences.
I'm not sure.
I believe he refers to Isaac Asimov being his, or maybe Isaac Newton. You're probably right about that. Don't listen to me.
But he said, Chief Engineer Newton, this is Captain Pria Lavesque. And he said, oh, and then some. Call HR on me. So not okay. Like, I don't know what that means. That was like the worst double entendre that I have ever, came across because I don't even really know what it means other than the tone and the body language was creepy AF. I didn't like it. I cringed at it. And like you said, just calling it a joke and saying, oh, I'm just kidding, doesn't make it okay.
Is it funny? It wasn't funny. So it's definitely not a joke. Do you just want to make me feel bad for calling you out on what you just did? The reason I pointed that out, and I'm glad it cringed you too, is it's still happening all the time.
All the time.
Where people are saying something so inappropriate and then squash it away. There's a wonderful streamer. Her name is Nagorix, and she... had somebody in her chat and they said something about I think her underwear, and the guy was like JK, and she read him the riot act about it. And I believe she was directly quoting from Mike Birbiglia, who has a whole thing about it's not funny, then it's not a joke. You didn't write this, it's not good. And so it was worth looking at her clip and then watching the Mike Birbiglia, because I'm not going to try and bastardize it right now. But this is how I've equated it. You're watching Goodfellas, and Goodfellas comes up to Ray Liotta, who has been blowing coke out the wazoo, and Paul Sorvino comes up to Ray Liotta in the backyard, goes, "You high? You're doing drugs? You're doing drugs?" And Ray Liotta goes, "No, no, no." And I think Paul Sorvino smacks him and says, "Don't make me the asshole."
Yeah.
Which happens it's such a smart thing
and
to say.
That's what happens. That's when people go like, I'm only joking, or come on, can't you take a joke, or, don't be so sensitive. They're trying to blame the victim at that point, and I don't like that. And
I called you out, and you had an opportunity to go, yeah, I'm sorry. And instead, you made me a jerk for calling you out. You made me a jerk for clarifying. And that is the worst defense mechanism. When I'm wrong, which is often... even if my ego's bruised, I'm going to take a second and go, okay, thanks. And maybe come back later a little more calm and go, hey, I hear you. Thank you for the opportunity to friggin' learn. And it's not easy. It's really not easy, especially when your ego's bruised. But I love thinking about that Paul Sorvino, Ray Liotta moment, because the way I relate it is like when guys like, hey, you want to hang out? And I'm like, hey, I'm just interested in being your friend. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, I'm the asshole for clarifying that. You're right. Somehow.
Yeah, but don't be so sensitive. I'm just kidding. Like all of those things, just minimalize the reaction that somebody has, which is probably a totally appropriate reaction to be offended.
But she knows she's a hottie patati too, because then she also accepts being gratuitously hit on by Yaphet, but she puts them in their place.
She does.
We're focusing on a very short moment that she handled very well, but I do think of it as a good learning opportunity as well.
Yeah. So with that, I want to throw this. This was towards the end of the episode. Actually, this was very much at the end of the episode. He said, "I began to trust you, and you never even said you were sorry." And Pria Lavesque said, "It's a good rule in life never to apologize. The right kind of people never want apologies, and the wrong kind take advantage of them." So I'm going to ask you how you feel about that line, because honestly, I don't know how I feel about it. I was going to say, that philosophy to me seems so outside of anything that a reasonable person would say that I don't even understand what she means by it. But I might be overlooking something really poignant in that line.
I mean, yeah, I'm stewing it over my head. First of all, there is a world where weakness is, well, not weakness. Sensitivity is considered
Vulnerability.
a weakness. Vulnerability is considered a weakness, and that there are going to be people that take advantage of that. That is true, and it's probably true in the 29th century, and it's true in the 24th century. I think us as a group are heading towards understanding power having many different facets. So I'd rather be friends with somebody that can apologize. Personally, I'd rather be the kind of person that can say I'm sorry. Personally, but have I been the source of other people's strength when I was the weak one? Totally. So I know what she means, but that's a hurt person. And,
It is.
And really, we actually, I think we needed to hear her be a jerk so that we don't feel bad that Seth got hurt, or Ed is hurt and lets her go.
Yeah, to me, that's somebody who's got walls up around them because they've been burned badly in the past.
So her point is too, and not to cut you off, and I'm sorry that I did, but I'm curious what this means to you. The right kind of people will never want apologies, and that's such a weird thing to say. So if I'm is she shaming me for wanting one? Is that what she's saying?
I think so. I think in her world, the right kind of person who doesn't want an apology is willing to move on from the situation, and the wrong kind will hold that against you somehow. They will hold it as a chip or a card that you now owe them because you made a mistake.
Totally.
I kind of feel like I live in a world, and this is something that I've learned incredibly recently, but it has just really, kind of ignited a new passion for me in a lot of ways, is that vulnerability, that ability to kind of strip the defensiveness away from yourself and be able to accept willingly feedback, just unvarnished feedback, and be able to, just accurately analyze a situation without trying to be defensive is the catalyst for growth that we all have. But what gets in the way of it is defensiveness and putting up walls and making excuses. And if you can get rid of all of those things and just accurately assess where you are and your performance, then you've got the opportunity to get better. And I think those kind of things get lost with an attitude of never apologize.
When you're explaining yourself as someone that can take criticism, take feedback, be vulnerable, that's a highly evolved human. And it's good, that you know that you can do that, because I don't think that that's cocky or egotistical to say that. When you know that you can do that, you know that you've reached a new echelon in existence. What Pria is saying is a very unevolved, poor coping mechanism person who is hurt and is narcissistic. And Ed isn't that, ultimately. And Ed also has enough self-esteem to not be manipulated by that. And it's kind of hard because it's delivered in such a way that you think she might be right. And the thing is like a sociopath definitely believes that. And
right.
She definitely might be a sociopath. And it's really hard to tell when someone's a sociopath until it's too late. And some people are good sociopaths and some people are bad sociopaths. And again, you can evolve, right? And I really do believe, like, my philosophy, especially as a higher evolved being who knows how to take
so
feedback,
evolved.
You know what I'm saying? The phrase I have for myself when I'm in a misunderstanding with somebody, as opposed to writing them off and going, they won't get it, they have no idea how I feel, or I don't know, is giving them the credit or giving them the opportunity to rise to the challenge.
Yes.
I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to tell them how I feel. I'm going to lay it out and give them the chance to surprise me.
So a second chance, if you will.
Interesting. It's almost like I planned that, which I definitely didn't, but carry on.
I tell you, I feel like I am sometimes the master of the segue. So this episode to me, was all about second chances.
That's interesting that was your takeaway. I'm curious.
So the Orville, and again, I take this at face value, that Ed and Kelly, based on their conversation, accept the premise that they all died, or they all were to die, or they all would have died in that dark matter storm. So now they're not dead, right? Now they get to go on. So they ask questions like, are we altering the timeline by continuing to live? Should we slit our wrists right now? A little bit darker. And, Ed said, well, we've already changed the timeline just by surviving the storm. Who are we to change it now?
Right.
But do they recognize the fact, and do they appreciate the fact that they have a second chance? That they as a crew, they as individuals, Ed as a captain, Kelly and Ed as a married couple, Gordon as a practical joker, do they appreciate the fact that they now have a second chance to improve, to appreciate things? Do they deserve the second chance? Do they want to give other people the second chances? So that to me was how this episode, sort of the cliffhanger at the end, the unspoken cliffhanger at the end of this episode was, what do you do with that second chance once you have one?
Yeah, to say yes to that being a good point about second chances. We even see it with Gordon telling a quote-unquote dead Isaac that was the best practical joke. He doesn't have a chance, as he thinks, to say that to him, right? So now they have a chance to move forward with that joke, or with their relationship being altered. So you're right that it's there thematically for sure, if not overtly, but there. I guess I didn't think it. I guess I didn't. We have to take Pria at her word that they were going to die. I don't know that the real world consequences were felt for them with regards to that, because they didn't die. And so they don't know what life would have been like without, except for like their way of life was at stake, but they were going to be alive, right? And so I don't know how much that impacted them. I would sooner say the whole thing is more about second chances. It's earning that second chance by apologizing, by admitting when you've made a mistake. And Pria couldn't do that, but Ed could by telling Kelly that she shouldn't have, that he was the one that was sorry.
Well, I want to talk about who's right and who's wrong here, Jessica, but
hey, listen, I told you so.
And I don't want to play a game of I told you so.
No, I did, but but like they blurt that out quickly, but then he does come back to the table and go, I screwed it up, and that is earning a second chance as well. So whether they should be alive or shouldn't or whatever, I don't know if I could talk about it, but remind me in season 2 about this episode. I'm going to take all the way back to some major plot point, what happened in this episode.
Oh, no way. Okay.
So just something simple, how timelines would have been changed.
So I am now back to where I have not seen an episode since first run. So the last time I watched a season 1 episode was 2017-ish when they were first run. So it's almost as if I'm seeing these for the first time now. There are some season 2 episodes I'm very much looking forward to. So same. I will remind you of that.
I have to make a note because again, it's just altering timelines, different futures. That's all. But it is interesting what the implications are here for that potential second season arc. So I would agree that second chances are here. There's an unspoken opportunity to do that. But I would go one step further and say that they earned the second chance by recognizing what they did wrong.
Agreed. So all in all, how do you think? Does this episode sort of hold up to the Star Trek tradition, to the Star Trek Roddenberry philosophy of kind of a hopeful future and either diversity or deep thought or things to think about and things to talk about?
Not at all, Mike.
You're still sticking a no on this one.
Yeah, I think it does. I think, and it gives us a new package, as opposed to the argument. This is just a rehashed TNG with jokes. It gave us a new package to explore these themes with, and we just settled in to knowing these characters well enough that we can get one line from Bortus, and it's very funny, and we can get a storyline of practical jokes. And again, I think
I agree.
Funnier episodes. We just know what these people are going through enough that we can expect their responses and still be surprised and learn with them together.
Yeah, I am still impressed with the depth of storytelling in the show, and the fact that I got to think about a topic as simple as, if I wake up tomorrow and I realize something as trite and as cliched as, this is the first day of the rest of my life, what am I going to do with it? Then that's the kind of question that I was able to pick out of this episode and really think about. And maybe it's just a phase of life thing. Maybe it is a things are changing my life right now, so I'm looking at it through that lens. I don't know, but this show got me to think about exactly that question. What are the consequences of your actions? What are the unintended consequences of your actions? What will you do with a second chance if given one? Are you willing to give a second chance to somebody else? And what kind of lessons did you learn along the way? And that, to me, is what this show meant to me. And I think it holds up very well with really the finest tradition of Star Trek and the Roddenberry philosophy.
If you're walking away with all of that, I couldn't agree more. You got to reflect on yourself. We got to reflect during wonderful storytelling, and enrich your life by doing so. I don't know how it gets much better than that.
Well, my life is easy to enrich because it's just down here to begin with.
I'm just joking.
So any little improvement, I'll take.
Take me to HR. Take care of the handcuffs. That's low-hanging fruit, Mike.
Oh, it's terrible.
Well, thanks for your company again.
Same with you.
Peace out.
Alrighty, well, join us next time as the episode Krill goes into the mission log.
Mission Log The Orville is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is podcast.roddenberry.com.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.